YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with more NFL free agency content. Today, I'm going over the top 10 sleeper free agents for 2021, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about landing spots where they possibly can go as well. But I wanted to point out these players because everyone's talking about the big name players. So we got all kinds of free agency, offseason in general content on the channel, all kinds, and a lot more to come. We grade every single free agency signing after they happen here in the offseason. So I cannot wait. But yeah, again, we got you covered. Most NFL content out there, so please subscribe. Be much appreciated. Follow our Twitter. Once that news breaks, we talk about it on Twitter. We talk about everything football every single day, so you're going to want to follow that. Check out the Sided app. As you see below me, we post polls on there. You guys debate football, and you can win Amazon gift cards, and there's all kinds of different giveaways. So now's your chance to try to get in on those giveaways there. So check it out. Link in the description, comments for anything you need. Here's the Twitter. I'm going to make this post here. Give me that sleeper free agent that you really want your team to target. Maybe you already got it in your mind. Give me your team and that sleeper free agent and why maybe you want them to target. It doesn't have to be somebody from this list. We're doing top 10. It does not have to be someone from my video here. It's just all your own opinion there. So would like to see that. Number 10, Josh Reynolds, wide receiver from the Rams. He had a pretty damn good year. About 700 receiving yards, pretty productive. I saw improvement as well because in the past, route running, rounded too many routes. It could have got a little better, and then this year I thought it did. I thought he was a lot smoother with his routes, natural hands. So he seemed to be pretty good after the catch as well. So that could be that sleeper free agent receiver. And I put nine teams, random number, but I put about, I guess, what I can fit what the graphics guy can fit here on the graphic. But yeah, 9 for each team. I put the original what team he's coming from. All these players are coming from the top left of all these. So the Rams, he could go back, a little bit of a cap space situation. But yeah, a team like the Titans actually stood out. Not saying he's going to go to the Titans, but it stood out because they have a guy like Corey Davis, who I think Josh Reynolds could be a little cheaper version of Corey Davis. So that's why it stood out to me. So teams kind of looking for that receiver, but they don't want to spend, Corey Davis could ask for 10 to 12.5 million per year range and might be a little rich for teams. So maybe you want to go with like a little cheaper option with Josh Reynolds. So all these teams that could use a receiver, kind of a lengthy receiver, specifically outside, I put those teams. Obviously there could be more teams you throw in here. But maybe we'll say I'll be pretty surprised if he doesn't end up on a team that isn't listed here. So that'd be pretty interesting on which one of these teams he ends up. And again, we probably can throw other teams in there. Dolphins, I think, kind of already have these style receivers. The Bears, if they lose Allen Robinson, some other teams you could throw in here. But yeah, Josh Reynolds is not being talked about a lot. Improving receiver. And yeah, again, might not be too expensive. Number 9, how about Tyus Bowser? Maybe a little more of a deep sleeper here. And these rankings aren't based off their talent level. It's just, guys that, that I think are big time sleepers, not more sleeper, sleeper. I guess if they're a sleeper combined with their talent, I guess they'll be higher up as well. But the Ravens edge rusher, Tyus Bowser, still a very young pass rusher. And I put a bunch of teams that, typically run a 3-4 or Leo defense, that he would fit on here. But yeah, Bowser, pretty damn good in coverage for an edge rusher. So yeah, looking at those teams that want to take that edge rusher, and drop him back a little bit, but he has room to grow as a pass rusher. I think he can reach that potential as well. So some teams that could use kind of a cheaper option, he could stay with the Ravens. He was actually more important to them than you'll realize by looking at stats, because again, he dropped in coverage and he was pretty productive there when given the chance. And they'll typically blitz their inside linebackers quite a bit. Team like the Ravens. In their 3-4. So, yeah, you kind of want in that style of defense an edge rusher that can drop back in coverage. The Rams could lose a guy like Leonard Floyd, so this could be a cheaper option. They kind of flipped Leonard. They improved Leonard Floyd, last year. Could they do it with Tyus Bowser? Titans looking for 3-4 edge rushers. Raiders and Jets stand out because they're going to run a Leo defense this year. And on one side, they'll have a defensive end handing the dirt. The other side, kind of standing up, and a guy that typically could drop in coverage. In the Jets' new scheme with Robert Salah, I think that would be so the Jets, really stands out to me. Kind of a cheaper option. They could go big. They could go big with spending big there. But I think that could kind of be like a D4, poor man's D4 type player here. And then some other teams that could look to add another pass rusher. This could be that, Steelers, Falcons, Giants might not be able to spend big time, adding an edge rusher. They might not be able to spend a whole lot. So this is that cheaper option. Chargers, Brandon Staley's defense, they need a guy that can stand up and rush in there. But the Jets kind of stand out. But again, they have a lot of money. In terms of fit, they really stand out. They have a lot of money, though, so they could spend bigger, but they may spend that big in that defensive end because they play that scheme will have a defensive end and an outside linebacker as their edge rusher, so one of each. So they may spend big on that defensive end and then get a guy like Tyus Bowser. That would be interesting to see if that happens. Number 8, Nelson Aguilar, so another receiver. So you see a bunch of other similar receiver-needy teams up there. Throw some new ones up there like the Dolphins. I think they would like to have him. So I don't think he goes back to the Raiders now. You heard the reports about him yelling at teammates in the locker room, and he's not happy with how they played, their effort, and that they lost. So both sides won't want to have him return, but there was such a connection on the field there with Derek Carr, Nelson Aguilar having the best year of his career. This looks like that USC Nelson Aguilar that we thought would be, so that was great. So it's kind of looking at it from that perspective, it's pretty tough to see him go somewhere else, but he improved. He got better, plain and simple. The footwork, the route running, the hands, everything, in attacking the ball at the point of the catch there, point of attack, I think he actually got better. Like, he actually improved. So, he actually could be a little more expensive than what we once thought. But again, look, I brought up a guy like Corey Davis. He's kind of in that middle tier. You kind of have the Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson at the very top tier. Then you drop down a little bit, maybe tier 2, Will Fuller, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chris Godwin. And then maybe you drop down in the next tiers at Corey Davis, receivers like that, maybe a Marvin Jones. And then the tier slightly under that, and I'm going off payment too, how much they would get paid, not talent. Then you got, kind of that Nelson Aguilar right underneath that, and maybe Reynolds right underneath that. So it depends on how much teams want to spend. And I would, if you really need receivers, I would, almost prefer to go a big Kenny Golladay guy, but I don't want to spend too much on receivers today because you can get a guy like Nelson Aguilar for $10 million a year, whatever it may be, 8 to 10, and then draft a guy because the young guys are taking over and they're extremely cheap. So that could be ideal for teams looking maybe that don't have that much money or looking to spend big elsewhere and then get a guy, like this, which that's still a decent amount of money to spend there. I really thought he improved, and that's why he's up here not being talked about enough. Number 7, Shelby Harris. Last year was one of my guys for free agency, and I'm just sitting there surprised at how he's not getting signed, and he goes back to the Broncos for dirt cheap, and that's still probably, nobody else will say this, but that still probably was, in my opinion, the most surprising thing of last offseason. I thought, biggest shocker. That he sat around for that much, didn't have many takers, and how cheap he was. Because he's a very good defensive lineman. He can play nose. He can play D tackle. He's a pass deflection machine. He stops the run. He gets pressure after the quarterback. I guess he's in his 30s now, so I guess he's getting up there in age. I thought, him and DJ Reader were pretty similar last offseason. In my opinion, I thought Shelby Harris was better. DJ Reader younger, has more potential, so that, understandable why he gets more money. That's why the Texans pop up, though. They kind of miss DJ Reader, so maybe get a little cheaper option. Could go back to the Broncos for sure. The Lions will look to upgrade, the way their philosophy would be to stop the run first with that new scheme, new coaching staff. So look to get guys to plug gaps in there. Cowboys can use that guy, to do that. Raiders, the Jaguars, for their edge rushers to be where they can be, they definitely need to upgrade the interior defensive line. So, a lot of those teams stand out that I just named among the other teams listed here. So, Shelby Harris, could be a sleeper. Could he be that cheap again? It could be another steal. Again, the Broncos could end up getting him back if he is that cheap again there. But they got to focus on other big-time free agents. Justin Simmons in company there. Von Miller has a club option there. So, we'll see. Number 6, how about Marlon Mack? No one's talking about Marlon Mack because he was hurt all year, and the Colts were just fine at running back because they got a pretty damn good running back room. They got a great offensive line. They got a great system there in play calling. But Marlon Mack is a stud. He was pretty damn good for the Colts. I still think, if he's healthy, I still think he would be there. If he was on their team, I think he'd be their best back still. I was a fan of him out of South Florida, still very much of a fan. He's got good vision. He's got good contact balance. Yeah, he's he can break that tackle, get that extra yards. And why he's a big-time sleeper, because no one's really talking about him. People are forgetting he's good, but he's probably going to be really cheap because the running back position, I don't think the value is going down. Like what they represent on the field and how important they are, I don't think it's going down. But the value in terms of price and what the contract, we know it's going down. So that alone makes it go down. The injury makes it go down. So he'll probably be pretty cheap, and he probably doesn't go back to the Colts because they're already pretty good, that running back room. So there's some other teams that could use a running back. Maybe the Dolphins spend a little more. The Bills, he would definitely be their best back, but maybe they go like really big or go home because they got two running backs that are solid. But I don't know. Maybe the Seahawks don't get Carson back. They get Mack instead. I think the Chargers it's weird because the Chargers got a pretty good running back room. A big Austin Eckler guy. They got a couple other guys, including Josh Kelly, who was a rookie last year. But they need to replace, I think, and they already talked about they want to be able to run the ball more effectively. Remember, Eckler's not a run the ball even 20 times a game, not inside the tackles. They're kind of missing, that Melvin Gordon type running back. So they may look, and they don't want to spend too much because, again, they're a team that has a solid running back room, a very solid running back room that might need a running back. So it's kind of odd. So they might not want to spend a whole bunch here. So they might go for a guy like Marlon Mack. The Jets need to spend a lot on defense. And focus on quarterback as well, but they're going to need to spend on double edge rusher, double cornerback maybe. So they may go a little cheaper running back. Steelers, they won't have a lot of money to spend on running back, so this could be an upgrade for them. A guy like Kenya Drake could be gone from the Cardinals. The Falcons, it's a big need for them. Big need running back in Arthur Smith's scheme, but they're negative cap space, so they may need a cheaper guy here. They may like Marlon Mack. So that's definitely an interesting guy to look out for, and these are some pretty good landing spots, in my opinion. I'd be surprised if he doesn't end up on one of these teams here. Number 5, BASHAUD BREELAND, the cornerback from the Chiefs. I think he's a sleeper corner in general, not just free agent. He'll get beat here and there, but the Chiefs will run a lot of man coverage. The corners will kind of be because Tyrann Mathieu will be in the box quite a bit. So these corners are pretty much on an island. There's probably other corners, other schemes around the league that maybe could match it, but there's only a handful. So it's at the top of the league how many times these corners are on an island. So they have my point is they have a tougher job than most. I think Breeland's very physical. He wants to come up and tackle. He will tackle you. He's a good tackler. He's physical at the line in man coverage. He's got experience in man coverage. I look at the Bills game 2 weeks ago. He covered pretty much every single receiver in that game, whether it was slot, outside, opposite side of the field, whatever. I think that's something underrated too about corners. Anybody that's played corner knows that when you play so much on one side and you go to the other side, it feels, it's not hard, but it feels weird. So for him to go on both sides, play slot on both sides, cover every receiver, Diggs, Beasley, John Brown, cover tight ends, that's just one game example too. I like BASHAUD BREELAND, and he's not going to be that expensive. And people will look at it. It's really scheme-based for corners. And it's interesting because the Colts are up there. Because I would actually compare him to a guy like Xavier Rhodes. I actually think Breeland's better than Xavier Rhodes based on this year. Who was better when it's all said and done? Xavier Rhodes had a really good year. He was better. But you look at the scheme he was in. A lot of cover too. They'll press a little bit, but they'll just cover the flat. I think Breeland would dominate that scheme. In my opinion. So, yeah, teams that are, the Chiefs would love to have him back. Very important to them. Teams that are looking to have corners, and he could be, somewhat on the inexpensive side. I really like these teams. The Packers actually had Breeland at one point. Upgrade over Kevin King. Breeland and Jair Alexander, pretty good. I think a lot of teams could use corners, so I'm not going to guarantee he's going to land on a team on this list, but I really like the teams on this list because you almost could put half the league up here. But I'm a BASHAUD BREELAND fan. Again, he'll get beat from time to time. Deep ball. If you run that much man coverage on an island, it's going to happen. It's one of the hard. It's probably the second hardest position in football after quarterback. So Breeland in my top 5 for sleeper free agents as a corner. Number 4, what about JAMEIS Winston? JAMEIS Winston, the Saints quarterback. Obviously, he really didn't get to see much of anything with him playing with the Saints, seeing him on the Bucs. Yeah, big play potential, good downfield throws. He's going to get you yard, get you points, that turnover potential at the same time. And that's why I would really like him on, and he had the chance to sit and learn with the Saints, so maybe that could help and just realize what he has to, he forces a lot of things. He forces a lot of throws. He doesn't want to throw the ball away. In a way, you can respect that, kind of with Josh Allen too. You want to be great. The guy wants to be great, but it's not something, it's a good bad thing to have, really, because it's something that you can fix. I think it's not like a trait type thing, where maybe it's just set, it could be set, but you might be able to fix that. A coaching staff or a team, maybe the Saints already did, could potentially fix that, but I would prefer a team with a really good defense, for him, because it seems like a lot of teams are really good defenses, Washington, the Bears. I really liked Jameis for the Bears last year. I think the Bears defense is still very good, but it feels like it's declining a little bit. They're going to need more out of Robert Quinn this year. So yeah, I would still like it for the Bears, but are they really going to win anything with Jameis Winston? It kind of goes for a lot of these teams, but yeah, a team with a very good defense, that typically doesn't have the offense, they're just not getting enough yards, enough points. Jameis Winston's going to go get you those yards and points. He'll get you some turnovers too, but you have the defense to probably overcome that. So those teams that they just can't get first downs, they can't get chunk yards, explosive plays, points in general. Go get Jameis Winston. Sounds like the Saints will like him back. Let's see if they can make that happen. But yeah, here's some teams, and I would be surprised if you ended up on a team other than the teams listed, because even the Jets are just unlikely. So we're almost running out of teams to put on here. And the Niners are unlikely. They would probably just end up sticking with Jimmy Garoppolo. So it just, almost forced some teams on here. So it would be very shocking if he ended up on a team outside of this list because of that. But yeah, I would really look at the Saints, Washington football team, the Bears, and maybe the Colts. Maybe the Colts there as well. Panthers would probably stick with Teddy, but we'll see. But yeah, I think he deserves a starting job. We'll see what happens there with Jameis Winston. Number 4 on the list. Number 3, the Packers running back Jamaal Williams. Yeah, I think he'll be on somewhat of the cheaper side. You look at Aaron Jones, a free agent too. Aaron Jones is the better running back, but he's going to be a lot more expensive. I would probably, I'd rather have Jamaal Williams, factoring in the price, the value there. Jamaal Williams is pretty underrated too, because he's a physical runner. Like he'll break the tackles, he'll hit the hole hard, but he's got a little more speed and quickness than given credit for, and he can catch the ball a little better than people give him credit for. And he's a damn good pass protector as well if you need him to be. So I think he's underrated, very underrated. I think he's a damn good back. I think for the price you're going to get him for, I think we'll see actually what it ends up being, but I think it could be a steal. He could go back to the Packers. Aaron Jones might be too expensive for them, so they could just go Jamaal Williams and A.J. Dillon, or they could just go A.J. Dillon. The Jets, it seems like they kind of got a Shanahan system in there with LaFleur coming from that tree. It seems like one of those 49er type backs, the backs they like, the hard runners in there that can also, block if they need to. Again, the Dolphins need a running back. The Chargers need more of a physical back like this that can handle a load and good pairing with Eckler. Again, they have other guys like Josh Kelly, but can't be afraid to get better. A guy like this definitely makes you better. Seattle Seahawks is a pretty good Chris Carson replacement. He is a free agent. Maybe you want to go a little cheaper, a little healthier as well. Steelers, I think it's I really think he's better. He's similar to James Conner. I think he's better. I think he's got more to his game. This would be a really good fit in Arthur Smith's scheme. Kind of that trying to. Impossible, but trying to replicate a Derrick Henry, I think Jamaal Williams could be somewhat, somewhere in that category. They don't have a lot of cap space. They're in the negative, so maybe they can figure a way to make this work. The Cardinals, too, could be looking for another running back. And the Bills, I think he would be their best back. But, again, they have 2 solid backs. Jamaal Williams isn't a whole lot better than their current backs, but I do think he's definitely better. So maybe it's not really worth it, go big or go home type deal with the Bills for running back. I'm a Jamaal Williams fan. I was at BYU, too, as one of my draft sleepers that year. So, yeah, I'm a Jamaal Williams fan. Same draft class. Jamaal Williams, Marlon Mack, those were my sleepers. I had a list of running back sleepers that year, but those were 2 of my big ones there. So, and they happen to be in the same. I just realized that. They happen to be in the same video here for this offseason. Number 2, JONNU Smith, the Titans tight end. Everyone is looking for that mismatch problem, that matchup problem tight end. Everyone's looking for that because we've seen teams use it to their advantage, and it really goes to their advantage. And JONNU Smith is experienced, doing pretty much everything. He's still very young, very athletic. I mean, he's got the ball in the backfield, a lot of slip screens to him. Yeah, tight end screens. Tight end screen, almost like a running back screen too at times. Plays in line, can play in the slot, can play outside, can go up and catch the ball. A lot of potential here. Teams are looking for this, and they're looking for ways to take advantage of having this guy. I think this is, no one's really talking. Everyone realized JONNU Smith's a weapon. He's good. Everyone, I'm not saying nobody realizes that, but people don't realize like how I think of hot name, I guess, he will be for NFL teams and free agency teams. This won't end up being a sleeper. He's a sleeper right now. It won't end up. I think teams will be fighting over him. They're going to drive. He's going to end up getting more money than people are talking about right now. And that price point, what people are talking about, is probably that 8 to 10 million range. 8 to 10, 7.5 to 10, probably what we're talking about. I think he's going to end up getting that 10 to 12.5 range, one of the higher paid tight ends in football. Teams are looking for ways. These teams here are looking for ways to create that mismatch. And there's some teams down here, the Cardinals don't really value the tight end a whole bunch. I think they could start, especially with an athletic specimen like JONNU Smith. I think they can start. There's some teams that have tight ends. The Seahawks have Disley, but they want that tight end position to be able to take over games and be that mismatch. The Bills, they have Knox in Kraft, but they just got beat by Kelsey. They want as many weapons as they can have to create mismatches to make Josh Allen. It's a situation where you can't be afraid to get better, and the Bills will realize that. You have to bring the I'm not saying he's going to go there, but bring the most offensive weapons you can to compete in that era in the AFC. What's there? Looking at teams like the Chiefs. A couple other teams. Yeah, there's a lot of teams on here they're pretty good at tight end, but this could bring that matchup problem if they want and make them better. But the Titans will definitely want him back. They'll definitely want him back. They promoted their tight end coach, their offensive coordinator. So you got to think they definitely want him back. Teams are going to drive up the price. It's kind of bad news for Titans fans who are listening. I'm telling you, teams will drive up the price. You're going to pay more. You're going to have to offer more than what you thought. So we'll see. Panthers, do they want to be deadly in that Joe Brady scheme there? Matt Rule hasn't really featured a tight end in his past, especially this year. Joe Brady kind of wants to. They're pretty good at receiver. That'd be scary. That'd be scary there. So watch out for JONNU Smith. Let's go on to number 1, Carl Lawson from the Bengals, their pass rusher. I think this guy is the ultimate upside pass rusher. It's just he is young still, but it almost feels like you're not a rookie, but you're dealing with a very young guy with a lot of potential here because he's got all the traits. He's got some good pass rush moves too. When he came in out of Auburn, it was like, what is this guy? Is he a pass rusher? Is he a 4-3 outside linebacker? Could we even turn him into a inside linebacker because he's pretty built? I think people overreact from guys that builds, their bodies too much and they want to stick them somewhere because of that. I think that's where the mistakes happen. So teams really didn't know what to do with him. The Bengals weren't really sure what to do with him as well at first. So he kind of finds his role where he should be as an edge rusher. And you see he has the traits. He's a freakish dude. He's got great athleticism, strength. And he's this year down the stretch of the season, I saw he developed some good pass rush moves. Very good with his hands, very strong with his hands, some spin moves. This guy's got a lot of upside. This guy's got a lot. He hasn't really had the production. The production somewhat been there. Again, he's getting better, but it hasn't really totally been there. So the stat watchers be like, I don't want to pay this much for this guy, but he's got the upside here, and he could end up going a little still on the cheap side for pass rushers because pass rushers are very expensive. A lot of these, even I wouldn't be against him going for a lot of money, but starting to get close to $14 million a year, 15. He probably goes cheaper than that because of his production. It's not a guarantee that he can reach that potential. It's a little bit of a risk, so he'd probably go cheaper for that, and that'll end up a steal. Another thing, I think he fits 4-3 or 3-4. I think he can fit edge rush in either scheme. That's fantastic. So I got teams up here that are looking for a pass rusher. Bengals could definitely bring him back. They were playing him a ton. Carlos Dunlap ended up going to the Seahawks because they wanted to play Lawson and Hubbard. Hubbard's a really good run defender. I'm just not a huge fan of him as a pass rusher. So just wondering if the Bengals can switch to like a 3-4. That just hit me right now. And Hubbard play 3-4 end. That would be ideal, in my opinion. Lawson could still be an edge rusher. They bring him back. Seahawks could be interested in him. They're interested in Carlos Dunlap, and they kind of got a scheme where these guys can fit. Raiders running that Leo defense as well. You know, they could use him on either side. The Titans desperately need a pass rusher. I think he can fit there. The Browns, you know, staying in the division. Lawson pairing with Garrett, developing those guys. I mean, Garrett's almost developed, but he's still got a lot of potential. It's ridiculous. Be pretty damn scary. Jets need pass rushers on both sides, whether it's the DN or off the ball or outside linebacker, excuse me, because that's what their scheme will be. Chargers definitely need another one opposite of Bosa. Depending on what they do with Bosa, is he going to be a 3-4 Is he going to be a pass rusher in that scheme? We'll see. The Colts would be, they like these guys too. The guys you develop, they love these guys. So I think sticking him right outside DeForest Buckner, that'd be scary. And the Vikings, their pass rush was atrocious this year. They will get Danielle Hunter back, but yeah, it reminds me. You maybe really can't compare them what they do on the field, but Danielle Hunter was the ultimate freakish build with an insane upside. He has the traits. It's kind of similar there. Vikings would have to dig themselves out of some space. There's a lot of these teams probably would, but that's my number one sleeper. I think this guy's got a bright future with the right team, right coaching staff. He'll probably get a little more money than people are expecting based on his production. A lot of upside. So that's probably my favorite thing. Just so curious on how much money these guys will get because it's almost unpredictable. So I can't wait to see that in free agency. I just can't wait for free agency in general. We have you covered nonstop on Twitter and the channel. For everything NFL, especially free agency. When news breaks right away on the Twitter, then we have grades for every single signing and more. We'll have a lot of predictions, more videos like this in the future for that. So please join us. Please subscribe, smash that like button, turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. We got all the content here. And don't forget to follow that Twitter. Link in the description comments for anything that you need. In the comments, let me know your sleeper free agents, and then go to Twitter and we can talk about who you want your team to get, everything. We'll talk about everything there. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye.